Hi, I'm Dee.
I'm Jose.
And we're your token theater friends, people who love theater so much that we use it as therapy, which is related to the project we're talking about today, which may be a form of therapy for anyone who comes see it. Don't you think so?
I completely agree because our guests today are choreographer Briana Reed and Tony winning legend Tonya Pinkins, who are part of a project called Truth and Reconciliation, Women
Working It Out.
Work.
Yeah, there's no men in there, which is how it should be.
I agree.
Yeah.
Cut me, I'll cut myself out of this. I agree.
So let's go to the interview where they talk more about the project.
Today with Tonya Pinkins and Briana Reed of Truth and Reconciliation, Women Working It Out, a series of plays at the Tank. And thank you both for joining us.
Thank
Can
you.
talk a little bit about what the series is?
So at the Tank, we're going to do 7 to 8 of I have over 20 10-minute plays by and about women, multicultural, multi-generational, about the ways in which women harm one another, the ways women oppress one another, and modeling ways that women can heal those wounds. And I was inspired to create it because I was in the room of the Time's Up Now movement before it went public.
Oh.
And so I was sitting in these rooms with what we think of as the most powerful, high-profile women in Hollywood, and actually experiencing them to not only not have a certain kind of personal power, but to actually be silencing and oppressing other women in a space where their intention was exactly the opposite. And so I thought, as a theater maker, what can I do that maybe one day they might perform in, and then like to start changing the amygdala and giving them a new file of what is possible. So that's what it came from, and I sent out a call to my writer friends and said, write me a 10-minute play from something that happened to you personally, from something that you know that happened historically, from something that you know probably did happen historically, even though we don't have a record. And people, it's easy to write the fight. And I was like, okay, so yeah, that person got to get their thing out. Okay, now, work it out. They got to fix it. You get to play God and make this situation resolve itself. And I got to see how the other person gets to have their say about, their contrition, their amends, or whatever about that.
And you said there's 20 plays, but you're presenting only 8 at the Tank.
Yes.
So is it going to be a recurring event?
Well, for me, I think there's an unlimited number of these stories, so I keep collecting them. And yes, I think it should be like a festival and a published group of plays that people can take into their communities, and then they can take the ones that speak to them, and then they can find the ones that speak to their community. So it's my hope that it'll travel around the world, and we're going to videotape them this time.
Oh, wow.
Briana is choreographing all of the pieces so that they move as if they're one whole evening rather than just a stop and start of plays. And we're going to video it, so maybe we'll make them webisodes, or maybe they'll stream, because there's just no end to these stories.
Briana, can you talk a little bit about how you came onto the project?
Yes, so I met Ms. Pinkins, Tonya Pinkins, at 50/50 by 2020, which was a wonderful program that I was talking about, the Time's Up.
Came out of Time's Up Now.
Yeah, and that I performed at, and so she was able to see me dance there, and we saw each other again, reconnected, and she said, would you like to read these plays and think about choreographing some dance to them? So I read them, and I was just up all night reading them. I couldn't stop. Like, it spoke to me in such a visceral way. And so for me, it was important to figure out how dance fit in without being a distraction, but it really was the connective tissue that brought the stories to the forefront, and sort of foretold and also honored them through movement. So that's what I'm really trying to do, is bring dance in. Ms. Pinkins mentioned it being a choreo poem, which I thought was just so beautiful, and taking all of these different plays, which are set in different times and about different things, but all have, as you spoke of, that connective tissue of women having issues, but then coming to a place where they can work it out, which doesn't often happen and isn't often brought to the forefront. And the things that we see, as you said, the fight is easy, but we don't often get the joy of the reconciliation. And that is what is healing. And that's what really, I think, spoke to me and excited me about working with you. I mean, just the awe of it all, of course, but just that and healing myself along with getting to work on this amazing project. So that's where I am with it and what I hope that is translated through the movement, and just working with these amazing actors who don't think they're dancers but are absolutely visually stunning.
She makes us look stunning.
To look at. I mean, the power, and it's like I get chills looking at them. So it's just beautiful, and I think that people that see it are going to be moved and touched in so
And there's
many
a lot of
different
laughter
ways.
too.
Yes, and there's laughter.
That they're painful, they're true, and it works out in a way that unburdens both people.
That sounds so exciting. And traditionally, when we see an evening of several plays, what happens is that the lights go off, or the curtain closes, and then we lose that the momentum that's been growing. And maybe this is a very esoteric question to ask a choreographer, but what was your process in finding the movement to connect all of these plays?
So I think the plays spoke to the movement. Like it's not me making movement for the plays, it's the plays making movement for themselves and the movement just coming to me. So for example, something like Tierra,
Tierra de las Flores by Glory Cadigan.
That play is very really, it delves into the tradition of orishas and things like that. So that movement, studying with different choreographers who really study those Cuban traditions, that is something I'm very familiar with. So then it was like, oh, which orisha would really fit this play? Oh, I know, Ogun, because he's the orisha of metal and war, and we need to figure out how to get in this situation and fix it, and that's what this character is going to come in and do. So this is the perfect thing, and what are these plays speaking to? So that's how the movement really came to me, and I just sit, read the play, think about it, and just let some things come.
What I loved when I was reading, the 8 plays that we received was that it was talking about conflict, but it wasn't using men as the person to blame for this conflict. It's more like, how do we, as women, uphold and oppress each other? So when you were talking to the playwrights about writing these plays, was that
That was
direction they gave you?
That was
you gave
specifically the prompt.
Oh, wow.
The prompt was, you have to find a moment in history or contemporarily where a woman is oppressing another woman. And I want you to show me that conflict, and then I dramaturged with the playwrights, and so then the conflict was easy to write. And I was like, okay, yeah, would you be satisfied if that person just cried? Is that the answer you were looking for? Okay, well, write what you really need them to do for you to feel. And the answers are surprising. Like, what person feels like is their solution is very different in each of the plays. So I didn't police the resolution, but I required a resolution.
One of the plays you wrote, and I started reading Till Hell Freezes Over, and I started in a place of anger. I was like, because it's about, you plays Emmett Till's mom and the white woman who falsely accused them of harassing her, which led to his murder.
Yes.
And you place them together in the afterlife. And I started reading it, and I was so furious at this woman, Carol. And by the end of the play, you take us on a journey where I was so moved. And how do you take us from anger to being moved? And I wonder if writing this play specifically helps you. I don't think understand is the right word, but if it helps you, you know, come to terms with what's going on when we see today Black men and Black children killed.
Yeah, I mean, like, Till Hell Freezes Over is part of I have a trilogy of plays in the afterlife, and one of them is also between, that's Carol Bryant and Mamie Till, but I also have one between Rachel Jackson, Andrew Jackson's wife, and the mother of Lincolna. A lot of people don't know that Andrew Jackson massacred a village and one infant lived, and he adopted it and sent it home. And so I wrote a play in the afterlife where Rachel Jackson arrives in the afterlife and thinks she's there to be a missionary and to save some more people even in heaven. And the mother of Lincolna is like, no, actually, you got to go through me to get to the afterlife, and it becomes this battle, and she's like, look what I did for your child, I did this and I did this, and she said, you took his ancestors from him, you didn't give him the herbs, you didn't do the this, and they're fighting over, each of them feeling that their thing is valid, and Rachel refuses to apologize. And Mother Lincoln is like, so I'm going to do to you what Andrew did to us. I'm going to skin you and turn you into bags and saddles, and like she's got the tomahawk and she's ready to do it, and they burst into laughter, and they go, that was so much fun. Who are you going to be the next time you go down and live? And she's like, well, I don't have to go anymore. I've already done everything I have to do. And so for me, it's in thinking about it, it's this trying to look at all of this that we live in from the high place of that there is a God, and whatever that is for you, and it is all things. And if there is a devil, it's God's devil. And so whatever we're looking at, it's all a manifestation of the all, and it is all good, and it is all evolving towards higher levels of good. Even if in the moments we experience it, it doesn't seem that way, it is still part of a process and a movement towards something higher and better. Part of the process for me was I'm very interested in neuroscience and the fact that we know that our brain doesn't show us the world as it is. It shows us a prediction of the world we expect to be there based on the files. So I think of theater as close as you can get in an entertainment format to an experience which has the potential to alter the amygdala and add a new file. So when we come to the theater, there's we're doing it online this time. We've done it as paper before, where there are 5 questions, sort of something that sets you demographically. Do you owe amends to anybody? Does anybody owe amends to you? How likely is it to happen, and what would it take? And then you watch the plays, and then you do the questionnaire again. And then we usually have a therapist, and we do a talk back. And people start telling stories that, they had forgotten, or people start and they're like, I'm so angry at that person, and then they think of something in their own life. And the feedback that we've gotten from people is that it is very powerful when you show them situations that really we've been taught or we imagine can't be resolved, that the people are in such irreconcilable places, and then you see someone come up with a solution. I think it opens a pathway inside of your mind for thinking of where that exists in your own situations in life.
I think in theater, somewhere along the way, people forgot that theater is, in many ways, a town hall, where we don't come to be, we don't come to be lectured, but we come to be part of a conversation. And it seems that with this series, you're trying to reclaim that. And I mean, your work speaks for itself. You're always doing work that talks about social issues and why they're so important to you. And Briana, you work with students and you work with young people. So to all those young people who feel that theater has not been historically a place for them, what would you tell them about, no, actually, yeah, come, let's talk.
Yeah, come and let's talk. And come and, like, for me, it's like I want forgiveness and amends to be juicy and sexy. That's what I told them. Like, we're gonna fight really hard, but like when you make up, it is a good thing. Like, each person is unburdened. So for me, that's what we're selling. We're selling the sexiness of forgiveness.
I want that on a t-shirt.
I mean, makeup sex is the best kind. Anyway.
Right? That's kind of it. That's what we're selling. That's what we're selling. Honey, your students already know.
Oh my goodness. Well, this project was inspired by the Time's Up movement partially, and so there have been a lot of complaints about how it really hasn't hit theater in the same way, and people who have been accused of wrongdoing continue to get work. I mean, no one's really canceled. You can't. And so, do you have a theory about why it hasn't hit the performing arts in the same way as it did Hollywood?
I'm so sorry, Benjamin. I'm not laughing at you. I don't have a theory. I actually have insider information.
Oh.
So I have to be very careful of how I speak here. I'm going to quote Yuval Harari. And what Yuval Harari says, he wrote Homo Deus and Sapiens and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, that the fiction is one of the greatest organizing factors for Homo sapiens, the lie, and that every big organization has a central fiction at its core, and that Homo sapiens prefer power to truth, and that if you are going to go through life and you want power, you're going to have to give up on truth, and if you want truth, you're going to have to give up on power. That truth does not reach the center of what are powerful organizations in our culture. So what I have experienced from the inside and watching of these powerful organizations or these famous organizations is that there's what is being talked about and there's what is being done. And that effort is not there.
Mm-hmm.
It just really doesn't exist. It's a lot of talk. I will say that I resigned my position at Actors Equity because I sent out to the membership a proposal to create a third-party reporting system for people who had been sexually assaulted. I knew that the elected would not vote it up, which is why I sent it to the membership, which meant I had to get somebody in every region to put it forth. The membership overwhelmingly voted that they wanted it implemented and funded. While I was doing that, the folks at the Lilies were also bringing that group into to town to talk. The organization Callisto offered a discount for this, and it was voted down. Even though the membership wanted it, it was voted down, and I resigned in protest. And they were like, "You have a fiduciary obligation to stay silent." I said, "You need to sue me because this is this is a matter of public interest. This is freedom of speech, public interest. You are actively protecting predators. I will not participate and you will not silence me about it. So sue me if that's what you want to do because, there's a lot of talk about it." And in one of my conversations, someone told me that, I was lobbying for the third party reporting because we cannot police ourselves. We need jobs. We can't police someone that we've got to hire or someone who's got to hire us. So
the way the director, then
right, the third party reporting, it's web-based, so you can make the report as close to the incident as possible. It's time stated to save it for evidence in a court. But then it's there. So you've unburdened yourself in some way. You haven't had to feel a lack of trust with who you've done it. You've done it with an algorithm. And then you can decide when, if ever, you want to do something. And maybe never. But the other part of the system is the system then lets you know if someone else reports the same predator. So now it's coming back to you. Someone else has reported him. Do you want to go forward? You don't have to. But it's now keeping track of all these people. And so suddenly you have this body of information. One of the people I spoke with, was sort of being dismissive, and she said, someone called me and told me that 50 years ago they went to an audition and a producer took off his shirt. And I'm like, the man's been thinking about it for 50 years. He's been looking for somebody to tell it. And someone taking off their shirt 50 years ago is different than someone taking off their shirt now. That person's been holding that. And I really have this belief that there are so many people who are artists who have left the business because of these kinds of incidents. And just the creating of a place to unburden themselves with it would heal those people. And as one of the people who I interviewed for these Heal Me Too talks, she said she was a child opera person, and they told all the children that the lead opera singer hated children. But what it actually was, she learned, was that they were a pedophile.
Oh.
And so she was like, they put us in danger because God forbid we were ever alone with that person and they were nice to us. We would have thought we were somehow special. But she said that person shouldn't have the job. All of the repercussions that they were causing in the whole thing. There's someone as talented who could be a positive influence. She talked about another opera singer who was kind and gentle and encouraged other people. Like, all this time and energy we spend on people because they're talented, so what? Where's their humanity? Let's go with the humanity, and however much talent that is, I think it more than balances off their talent if they don't have humanity.
Mm. Wow.
How do we get you to run for Attorney General?
Like I said, I am committed to truth, and power and truth do not go together.
Mm.
You know, they don't go together.
Mm.
Or how can viewers, listeners support like third-party reporting or and like
They should
initiatives for theater?
they should lobby for organizations like Callisto to be implemented by their employers. They should tell their employers they want them to pay into organizations like Callisto, which is a place where they can make these reports, and it is held third party. And remember, the more organizations that Callisto has, the more information they have. So we have this huge database of people, and it's, you know, you can report something from 50 years ago because those people don't stop. They do it, you know, they're lifelong predators. So it's, you know, there's no end to the value of having that information.
It's like bad theater men.
Briana, Tonya, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to invite our viewers and our listeners to come see Truth and Reconciliation? Oh, because I also forgot to mention this, and I love that the tank makes it so affordable and so accessible.
Yes, that was very important to us. We're going to be playing October 3rd through October 6th at the Tank, which is 312 West 36th Street. We have like a 8 o'clock on
8 o'clock on the 3rd and the 4th, and then on the 5th, 3 and
3 and 8.
3 and 8.
And 3 on the 6th. 3 and 8 on the 5th and 3 o'clock on the 6th. So at the Tank, you can buy your tickets online now, 312 West 36th Street, and we hope you'll come down and share with us. Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. This is great.
Thinking about shrinks and therapy in theater, which theater character would you want to have as a therapist?
Oh,
Please do not say Mrs. Lovett. Please do not say Mrs. Lovett.
oh God. I think the whole point is all theater characters need therapy. So, yeah, that's not a good idea. But I'll have Tonya Pinkins as my therapist.
Should be fabulous.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching. If you want more Token Theater friends, we have a podcast, and this week we review Betrayal.
Betrayal.
The Gucci scent, just kidding. If you want to hear more about that, check us out on iTunes or wherever you get podcasts. Let us know who you want us to interview next because the fall season's ramping up and there's a lot of people. Too many people doing shows. So help us out, let us know. And remember, theater's more fun when you take a friend. Bye.
And support women in theater.
Exactly. It's good the men. We don't need men.
No, we don't.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I agree.